First and foremost, take this information down. Actually, you don't have to take this down. It's on the sheet. I'm Ken Spencer. I'm myself and a business partner have a company called Empower Mac. I do this for free to try to get you guys introduced to the Mac. We have two different sides of the company. Pete, my partner, every month or 6 weeks, we have full-on weekends of classes with 6 hours of classes each day, and we go into depth of iPhoto. You'll have 6 hours of iPhoto, 6 hours of iMovie. So where this is more like a lecture type situation, that's very much a lab situation where you bring your computers in, we set them up, we have tables, and we work with you on it. And we have, we average about 20, 22 people in those classes. It's $99 for a weekend, which is pretty fair for the amount of time you get. Also, your first class is always free. And if you bring someone else after you've had your first class, this is our little Ponzi scheme that we have, you get a class free if you bring somebody, and they get their class free, of course. So it's kind of our way of building up our clientele. We've been doing it for 8 years now, and we're the only ones in Sacramento doing this. I'm sorry? Well, sometimes we do it at Sierra View Country Club over here, but now we're doing the classes at a restaurant called La Placita Dos. We take over their banquet room for the entire day. We start at 10 in the morning and go till 5 at night on Greenback. And on the Empower Mac website, it's got the last class from last weekend, but it'll update with the new ones coming up.
Over in Citrus Heights?
Yeah, Citrus Heights there. So. My best friends own the restaurant, and they're gracious enough to let us use the thing, and it works out pretty well. And of course, Pete really likes the food there, so that's why we gravitate to there. We love Sierra View, and we use their banquet room. The only problem is many times we're competing with wedding receptions and things like that, so sometimes it gets a little noisy. And although it's a nicer place, the distractions can be a bit tough when you're trying to learn something. Anyway, I come out, I can do one-on-one tech support, I can do over-the-phone tech support and things like that, and it's a pay-for service, but don't hesitate to give me a call if you just have a few things, questions, anything like that. I'm always happy to help. My normal rates are $75 for the first hour, $50 for each additional. Remote support is $35 an hour, where I can actually get onto your computer with you. So. Whether it be learning, whether it be installing things, whether it be hooking your computers to the network, those kinds of things. So, anyway, I think now is there anyone here that's not coming over from a PC? So you're all coming over from a PC, switchers as we call it. Welcome, and we all have kind of gone through this, and it's even in the early days of Mac there was a bit of that. So. With a little bit of help, we can get you so you're kind of computing on Cloud 9. Those of you, you're all switchers over. Is there anyone that hasn't had their data brought over from the PC? Okay.
What does that mean?
In other words, you had your photos, you had your documents and things like that?
No.
Okay. They're all on the old one, and you need them brought over? Okay. Apple has a built-in program for it that's quite good. It's called Migration Assistant. It takes a little bit and it walks you right through it pretty well. And in fact, you can migrate all the data from your PC to your Mac using Migration Assistant easier than you can go from an old PC to a new PC and migrate your data. So it's something you can do yourself. I generally charge $99 to do a complete setup with data transfer and everything else. And the reason I charge a fixed price on that because it could take 3 hours, and I hate seeing the little spinning beach ball go. So
4.5 hours.
Yeah, so many times I'll do it and I'll set it to go. But there's good ways to do it. Also, Apple walks you right through it on the screen. But to be honest, if you ever have questions on any of that stuff, just type it in Google, and you've got 100 different hits on people that have tried to do the exact same thing. And remember, though, when you're searching, how do I migrate data from PC to Mac? Or how do I save bookmarks? Make sure you say Mac at the end, because then you're not going to have to weed through all the PC stuff so that it applies directly to you.
A lot of times all the information will not transfer over.
Not everything, but it can, and also you can put it onto a thumb drive and bring it over and that kind of stuff.
Will it tell you what does not transfer over?
Well, what did you have not transfer?
Quicken.
Well, no, it would transfer the data. The problem is the program's
I
different.
know the program's different.
Yeah. So there is a way in Quicken, you take the current, you have to use the current version of Quicken on the PC, export the data, and then fire up Quicken on the Mac. And believe it or not, it's Quicken 2007 is the current version on Mac. They have Quicken Essentials also, which is quite good. But then you can bring it in. So it's all about exporting it. That's not a Mac PC thing. That's a Quicken problem.
Yeah.
So Quicken doesn't love its users. That's all I can say.
So it's more of a software.
Yeah, it's an incompatibility with the different issues of Quicken that they have. But like all your photos would come in. If you're using Outlook, all your Outlook stuff would come over.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say how about you?
And there is Outlook on the Mac. I don't encourage it, but there is. You can buy Microsoft Office for the Mac, so it's exactly the same Word, it's exactly the same Excel, exactly the same, and you can use Outlook. Apple's Mail will support everything that Outlook does, and in fact, it can import that stuff. But going forward, I mean, Microsoft has done a really good job with their Mac software, but Apple's the one that's really spending the time making it work well.
What did you say about the Office?
Microsoft Office for the Mac, the last, if you don't get the Live 365 one, the last one that they've made, PC was 2010, and on the Mac it's Microsoft Office 2011 for the Mac.
On your Apple Mac, though, there's features on there where you can like Word,
Yeah,
Word
Pages,
doc.
Keynote, and Numbers all come built in, and they will read Microsoft Word documents and save them as Microsoft Word documents. But if it's the Outlook, the biggest thing is for Outlook.
Yeah.
Okay?
Where do I find migrations?
It's in the Utilities folder. So when you first fired up your Mac, it asked if you wanted to bring it in. Let me show you where that is. I click on this. The first thing on my dock is the Apple smiley face, the happy finder face. And if I go into Applications, and then at the bottom of Application, oops, if I sort by name, the bottom of Applications, you'll see Utilities. And in Utilities, you would see Migration Assistant.
There it is. It's down there.
There it is. So that's it, and it walks you through the process. And then on the PC, it tells you to go download this program that Apple makes that makes it so it can reach in and get the stuff out of the PC. Now, don't worry about it. It's a program from Apple, so it won't create any problems. You may have to turn off your firewall. The other thing that brings up is, welcome to the Mac. Relax, because you can't get a virus. It's impossible. So don't worry about viruses. Don't worry about any of that stuff. The only thing you're susceptible to are these phishing schemes that people have where they, hey, I'm from your bank, we're upgrading security, that kind of thing. And everybody's vulnerable to that, but that has nothing to do with your computer. Go ahead.
I haven't had Parallels installed on
Uh-huh.
mine so that I could use some of my Microsoft programs on my sewing machines.
Right? Oh, right. Yeah, that's one place they're not doing Mac yet. They're going to be doing iPads instead of making Mac versions for the sewing machines.
Okay. But have I ruined the integrity of the Apple by
Very-
putting that in there?
Very good question. Here's the deal. So what she's talking about is what's called Parallels, and there's another one called VM Fusion, which essentially is a program that runs inside your Mac that allows and you load Windows in that program, and it runs in your Mac, and in fact, it's picture-in-picture. You've got Mac running in the background, and you got Parallels or Fusion running Windows here. You actually install Windows on it, and it's really easy to install Windows on it. And the only thing that can happen is your Windows compartment, we'll call it, is still susceptible to viruses. But first of all, if you're just using it for your sewing machine, you're fine because you're still going to do all your internet on the Mac side. But if you were to get a virus on the Parallels compartment or the Fusion compartment, it only affects that, and you would just have to reload it. It cannot cross-pollinate and mess your Mac up at all. The beauty of that is, too, I'm going to talk about Time Machine and backups here in a little bit. It even backs up all your Windows stuff for you, so everything's backed up. But yeah, that's a great way to go, and that's a specific use case where you need to do that. I find many people think they still need to do Windows stuff. In your case, you do, but other people, once they realize you can run Windows on a Mac and it's really fast, but most people just say, I don't need to. But yeah, you are vulnerable in that little spot.
If Windows is on there, how do you get rid of it? I've got Windows on mine.
N-
I didn't do anything.
On your Mac?
Yeah.
Not unless you, do you have it in a boot camp partition, or did somebody install it?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Did somebody install it?
AT&T?
No.
No, the guys here did, they've got it signed.
Okay, well, let's talk later on that, because I don't,
Norton's showing up on it.
well, Norton's different. Norton's of antivirus program that they probably installed here. And if any of your virus programs are pre-installed or anything like that, just don't renew them when the time comes up, because you don't need them. You don't need them at all. So, and if you're still using a PC, Microsoft has its own built-in Microsoft Security Essentials, which is free, which is also quite good. So you don't necessarily have to continue to use a lot of those virus things. And to its credit, Microsoft has gotten a little more secure, and they're trying to really quell or quash all that stuff. All right. Moving ahead, I mentioned that we're recording today's class. I have a website that's at kenspencer.com, and if we go to classes, all the classes I teach are simply YouTube videos of what I recorded. I taught a class yesterday on Apple Mail. So if I click on the video archive, right here is my class yesterday. It's 2.5 hours of just about Apple Mail. And I taught this at what's called MacNexus. MacNexus is a 30-year-old organization, nonprofit, that is a Macintosh users group. Now, Mac came out 30 years ago last January. This was started October of that year. And it's 600 members strong. We're a volunteer organization. I'm current president, which is no big deal, but anyway. It's where you can go and get help, get classes, etc. And if you decide you like it, come to a few classes. It's $40 for a family for an entire year. And they even have a help desk on the first Saturday of every month, where if you're having problems, you can bring it in, and for free they'll help you with it. So it's a great organization. Again, we're 30 years strong, 30 years old, and 600 people strong. So it's great. But that's what I do, is I do classes there also the first Saturday of every month. They have a couple places. If you go to macnexus.org, and you'll see that we have the first Saturday of every month. It's behind Country Club Center at Watt and El Camino. The third Saturday of every month, there's classes down at the Sacramento Food Bank, which is at 3333 3rd Street or something like that. Yeah, and they have them there, and that's good. And then we have our general meeting on this third Tuesday of every month, and we'll have speakers. We've had Steve Wozniak speak via Skype to us as a speaker. He's a co-founder of Apple. So it's a great organization, and as I tell people, come to a few classes. If you like it, if you think you can get $40 worth of value out of it, then join. There's nobody at the door just punching your ticket or making sure that you get in. And the general meetings are great, because we give away, in our raffle, we give away every other month pretty much. We give away an iPad. Sometimes we give away a MacBook Air and things like that as a raffle. So, but MacNexus is a great resource. Now, does anyone here live in Lincoln Hills? Okay, so if you're in Lincoln Hills, you have a Macintosh user group up there that's very good. Unfortunately, it's my understanding that it still is only for Lincoln Hills residents, because they use the facilities they use the great amphitheater there, and it's a users group, but it has to be restricted to Lincoln Hills residents because they're using the facilities. So, but it's a great group up there, it really is. 700 members? Yeah, and they're really, really good. I've spoke up there before, so. All right, so getting that stuff out of the way, let's dig in. We had mail and the internet are probably the two biggest things you're going to do on this. So we're going to cover those first, and then we'll go through a lot of stuff. First thing is, you have a dock on the bottom. The dock is just a keeper of your most used applications. I just had a call this morning while I was setting up one of my clients. He says, well, Safari's not on my dock anymore. Did I lose it? Nah, it's still there. It just doesn't have that shortcut anymore. So that's a shortcut, and it's easy to restore. But for the most part, this is just your one-click access to all these programs. The first one is the Finder, and you'll notice the little white ticks under everything. Those mean that it's currently running. And your Finder's always running, because that's the program itself, the system that's running. But as we go across the dock, the first one after Finder is Launchpad, and you'll see that this is all your programs, and this looks suspiciously like the iPad and the iPhone. They're icons of all your applications. The next one is Safari. That's your web browser. We'll go over that in a minute. Mail, we're going to go over that, and that's the first thing we're going to go over. The next one is Contacts. That's your address book. The time you spend making your address book work well is time you're investing in the future rather than the little black book, because that can be used, that'll be used on an iPad, an iPhone, on other computers. And if for some reason you ever decide to leave the Mac, it can be exported in standard format, generic format that can be used anywhere. Go ahead.
Quick question for Dan. I can't get my AirBook to talk to my iPhone.
That's iCloud settings, and sometimes those are pretty specific. And
Right.
it's where you, no, it's fine, because it's you're not the only one. No, it happens. And when it works, it's great and it's seamless, and it's just a matter of getting a little setting tweaked. You may have a different name there. Since you have a laptop, bring it in. Bob can do it for you here. Bob Bowman can do it for you. Or give me a call. I can do it remotely. But they have to be on the same settings. And once you get the settings correct, God, it's a dream, because you just keep updating them. Calendar is the same thing. A little bit, it's more of a struggle. A lot of people are having trouble getting from the old paper calendar to this, but now that we are carrying more devices and stuff, it makes it a lot easier. You can always share your calendar with people. Notes, you can make shopping lists. I use Siri on my iPhone and say, add toothpaste to my Costco shopping list, so I can buy a case of toothpaste, Maps, this is the same maps that's built into your iPhone and your iPad, and the cool thing is if you make a trip here, you can send it right to your iPhone or iPad. Messages, if someone has an iOS device, an iPad or an iPhone, you can actually text them from your computer, and there's some other features here. FaceTime, video sharing, and yes, Skype works on the Mac just fine also. FaceTime is Mac to Mac, Mac to iOS device, or iOS device to iOS device. And when I say iOS, that's iPhone and iPad. Skype works fine on this, so you can talk to people in other countries, and Skype, of course, works cross-platform. You have to download it, and that's all. iPhoto, we're going to touch on briefly. You had a specific question on iPhoto I hope to address. Photo booth is one you can have fun with. That's the little camera. Just play with that. You get used to it. There's some great effects you can do about riding a roller coaster, and it kind of creates a green screen. Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are Apple's equivalent of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Keynote, if you do presentations, you'll find it's much, much easier than PowerPoint, and it has some amazing transitions.
Yeah, save yourself some money and use Keynote versus buying the Microsoft.
The Office for it. And if you have existing PowerPoints, though, it'll import your PowerPoint documents, and it'll save them as PowerPoint documents. Same with Pages. It will import your Word documents or export it as a Word document. Numbers, though, I got to tell you, I've used Excel a lot. Numbers is great if you want to do charts and everything else, and there's a bit of a learning curve on numbers. But, if you're a heavy Excel user, you're going to want Excel, Microsoft Office for the Mac on Excel. So, iTunes, that's your compartment to hold all your music, just like iPhoto is your compartment to hold that. iBooks is kind of Apple's, I don't want to say Kindle equivalent, because there's not quite as many titles as there are on the Kindle, but you can also store your PDFs. I take all my manuals for all my appliances at my house, and I store them here. I find the PDF online, and I store them in here, so I don't have to go looking through that whole thing. Plus, it's searchable. If it's the switch for the water, boom, there I find it right in there. The App Store. Those of you that have iOS devices know you purchase apps from your phone or your iPad to go in there. Applications are available online. Not all applications. Like Microsoft Office is not in the App Store. You still have to buy it. You can download it, but it's not from the App Store. System preferences we talked about briefly. These other programs are ones that are specific to what I'm doing, the recording and things like that, so they won't be on yours. We go down here. We have a trash can. Now, who here uses, Just say whoosh. No. You can click and hold is one way, and it says empty trash. Or if I click on it, I can see what I have in my trash, and then I can empty the trash there. And then it comes up and says, are you sure you want to empty your trash? This is your last chance.
Can you double click also?
No, you just single click. Single click. Up, hear the little noise that it does. It crumples the paper up and throws it away. If you use thumb drives or hard drives and they're connected to your computer, and you try to if you drag something to the trash from those devices, you have to empty the trash while the device is connected. Otherwise, I've had these people, my thumb drive's full, I keep throwing it in the trash. You put the thumb drive back in, it puts that stuff back in the trash. So what it's trying to do is to keep you from inadvertently deleting things. So if you have a thumb drive plugged in, or a camera card or anything, and you put stuff in the trash, you have to delete it while it's plugged in, and then that'll clear it. Otherwise, it just, when you unplug it, oh, well, it's not in my trash anymore. Put it back in, it goes down to the trash. It's just to kind of help give you a stopgap measure. You also will get the warning if you've unplugged anything, a thumb drive or a camera card or something like that. You've unplugged something from your computer. You don't get that on a PC, you get the little bing bing. As long as it wasn't transferring data when that happened, you're fine. So
Is that a things you skip?
they're just what I'm using to record. And this is what I'm using I'll be showing my iPad on the screen. So pretend like they're not there. Anytime an application is running, it shows up in the dock. Now, if I quit an application, it'll remove from the dock unless I've told it to stay in the dock permanently. So,
How do you tell someone to stay there?
well, let's do this. Let's go into Launchpad and let's just pick one of my programs.
Your calculator.
Okay.
Second column.
There it is. So I'm going to hit my calculator. You see it fires up. By the way, your calculator, I have mine on. It has a paper tape, so it'll keep your running totals if you want. And you can go back and edit it in the paper tape. So now, it's in my dock. So if I want it there all the time, I click and hold and go to Options. And in my options, I say Keep in Dock. The other thing is, and you don't want to do this to a lot of programs, but you can tell that program, I want you to, when I log into my computer or turn my computer on, I want it to turn on. So I could say Keep in Dock. But what I like to do is, I go down and I'm going to click and drag quickly, and I'll go grab this and I'll drag it where I want it. And Apple says, well, since you clicked and drug it, that must mean you want to keep it in the dock, so then therefore it will keep it in the dock. Otherwise, it disappears from the dock when you quit the program. So I want to get rid of it from the dock. I go to Options, and I deselect Keep in Dock. And now when I quit it, it goes away from my dock. Okay?
Can you also drag it and put it up there as a icon on your screen?
No, you have to make an alias for it up there, and I mean, the dock is really your thing. So now, since we're talking about the dock, go ahead.
How many things can you have in the dock?
I have lots on my user. This is my demo account, but on my account I have lots. And to be honest, I'm going to show you why you don't really have to have them very many of them anymore. So let me show you one thing first, though. I always like to tell you, the screen is built just like me. It's wider than it is tall. So when I go into Safari and I need to scroll down here, or I'm working on a Pages document, there's just not a lot of room going down. So why don't I take my dock, I go up to the Apple logo, up in the upper left, come down to dock, and say position on left. And now, look at all this extra real estate I have down here, which when you're looking at the internet or trying to type a document, you can use all that extra space. And all I do is go hit this little green dot, and now look at all that extra room I've got. Right here. That's your resize. So it gives you lots of room. I love the dock on the left. If you're already used to it on the bottom, keep it there. I don't want to reinvent your workflow, but since most of you are fairly new to the Mac, to me it's just a lot easier. Now, when it's on the left, it will scale. The more things you have, the smaller they'll get. But if you really have to, you can go back to your dock preferences and say turn magnification off. And then as I hover over it,
Oh, I like it.
they become bigger. Now, I do have the option
Wait, where's that again?
under dock. It says turn magnification. Now it says off. And then I can also do hiding, but you know what? I don't like that because I come over here and then I like to have it exposed all the time. And I just turn magnification off because as I hover over it, it tells me what I'm on. Now, I'm going to tell you why you don't need the dock anymore. Because you have very, very capable search capabilities in your Mac. And if I go up here to the little, it's called Spotlight. Anytime you see a magnifying glass on a Mac, it means you can search. Now, I'm going to click on this search, and we fired up Calculator earlier, right? I couldn't see it on LaunchBar. So if I go here, well, first of all, I got to tell you, this has a built-in calculator. So we can go 2 times 3, and it gives you the result right there. I didn't even have to fire up Calculator. But if I go here and I start typing calculator, look at what shows up. As I'm typing calculator, my top hit is that, and it says it's an application. And with me, I have hundreds of apps on here, so I can fire that. There it fires up right from Spotlight.
So it's like you have a dictionary.
Yeah, there's dictionary. I mean, as I start typing, I have drag and dictate, and I have dictionary. Boom, done.
Is that some, so is that an app or?
It's an application built in.
Okay.
Yeah. I have many other apps in here, but that's one of the built-in applications. So I'm going to quit that and quit calculator. But let's take this a little further. This is Google for your computer. This will search inside. Let's do this. Let's Apple. So I've typed in Apple. This is an old program, but there's a document that has the word Apple in it. Here's folders with the name. Here's mail, that somewhere in that piece of mail is the word Apple.
Contacts in that.
Yep, contacts are in there. I'm looking here. Where are... Oh, yeah, it's a rich text format. So let's say you have a PDF in here you got from somebody, and the word Chancellery is in it, let's say. You would type for Chancellery, and it would look down in the document and find that word and give you a preview of it. So if I just hover over this, it'll give me a preview of that document. Okay? So don't neglect Spotlight. It is it saves so much time, and what this really does is it makes it less important where and how you store things, because it will go in and reach in and find all of that information. It's called Spotlight. Okay?
And you get them by looking
Just all I do is click the magnifying glass.
and that comes up to Spotlight.
Comes up to Spotlight, and then I start typing.
And that's your Google.
Well, for your computer, it's the search inside your computer, but it's really as good as Google. And actually, in the new operating system coming out this fall, which is called Yosemite, which will be a free upgrade for everyone, it will also, from here, you'll have the other option to search right in that. But see, right from here, I can go down here, and it says search the web or search Wikipedia for Apple.
What do you mean free upgrade?
So the operating system, the Mac OS, is currently what you guys have is called Mavericks, the Great Wave site by Half Moon Bay, and it's 10.9 is the number. In the fall, they're introducing Yosemite, which is 10.10, and it will be a free upgrade to your computer. Like going from Windows 7 to Windows 8, people pay for that. Well, Apple upgrades it virtually every year, and there's a lot of new features. And then if you're running your phone or your iPad, it's probably running iOS 7, and you'll have iOS 8 will be a free upgrade about the same time, middle of September, we think. And the interactivity between the two will start really neat. Let's say you're working on a document here in Pages, and you park next to your desk, it all of a sudden opens on your computer.
Will you receive a prompt then about when Yosemite?
Yeah, you'll get a thing, and it'll be on the news and everything else, but you'll get a little thing saying, hey, you've got a software update available. And if you get a thing that there's a software update available from Apple, don't worry about it. It's great. Just let it do its thing. Sometimes it's a pretty sizable download. So anyway, that's Spotlight. Don't neglect it. It's great. Even if you have certain maps that have street names on them, it'll search within that map for it. I can't tell you how good this is. And actually for a contact, so I have in here, because this is an Apple demo one here, there's a guy named Johnny Appleseed, or Jane Appleseed, and if I click on that, it takes me right to contacts and there's the contact. Okay? So don't neglect Spotlight. All right, we're going to go into mail. And this is how your mail looks. And the mail, it looks the same as it does on the iPad and the iPhone. Now, you have Apple Mail is easy to set up. Is there anyone who hasn't set their mail up yet? Or do you just use the browser and go to a website? Is that how you get to your mail? Okay.
Look like that.
Okay. Do you use the browser to go to your mail? Do you go to Safari and go to your mail?
Yeah.
Okay. That works fine, but if you decide to activate Apple Mail, it will go check your mail for you. And the beauty is all the programs interact very well, which you'll see as we go along. So here's how hard it is to set up mail. You simply go to the preferences, or the first time you launch it, it's going to prompt you to do this. You click on accounts, you hit the plus sign, and you figure out who your email provider is. Is there anyone here on SureWest? Have you set your mail up yet?
We did, but I can't, my outbox was off.
You need to change your outbox. If you email me, I'll give you the thing, or SureWest will help you on the phone. They have a unique setting for outgoing. Instead of SMTP, it needs SMTP AUTH, and you'll be fine. All the rest of it configures it automatically. This brings up a great point that I like to put out to everyone, please. Who here is using the email provided by their internet service provider, whether it be SBC Global, Comcast, SureWest, etc.? Okay.
You're not Yahoo, is Yahoo?
Are you using the Yahoo through AT&T SBC? Okay. Well, Yahoo's not the best of the mail clients out there, the mail people out there. It's a lot of ads, a lot of other stuff. But if you are using Comcast or SureWest or AT&T, I encourage you to go get a free Gmail account. Actually, Apple will give you a free iCloud account you can use for mail, or you can use Gmail. And the reason being is, in our life, we go through changes. You might move to an area where the current provider isn't offered. And when you make that move, you're going to have 30 days to change your email address with everybody you know, and you're not a free agent, so to speak. And if let's say I was selling internet for 1/3 the price with 3 times the speed, you'd be a fool not to take it. Oh, but man, I've got this email address I've had forever. So start migrating away from being locked in and being a slave to your current internet provider as your email provider. Gmail is great. It's the best email going out there. It has the wonderful spam filter, and you have tons of storage. You have 15 gigabytes of storage. SureWest only gives you 500 megabytes of storage for your mail that you're archiving. And also, Gmail supports, this is the big thing, if I check my mail here, I want to be able to see on my iPhone and my iPad whether I replied, whether I sent, etc. And Gmail is able to do that. The other ones can, some of them can do it, but they usually don't offer that right off the bat. Go ahead.
This might be too specific, but I have the separate email accounts for work.
Uh-huh.
I thought I could sync them all over, so every possible email that's in folders is now in separate. Well, like all my AT&T, I have separate folders set up on AT&T. That's
Right.
support.
And that didn't come over, or it did come
It
over?
came over, but
Right.
everything.
All the rest of your mail came.
My inbox is like
It's
just
full.
Loaded, whereas before when I go back to AT&T, it's not like that.
Sure.
And then my outgoing for all my accounts, nothing's being sent. I thought I was sending out a business proposal, and they never got it. It's staying in my outbox.
So that needs, there's a setting in the outgoing that needs to be fixed, but to be honest, having all this stuff come over from your AT&T to fill in is quite good because you have all your folders.
Well,
And AT&T,
it's great, but it's not great because everything that's in my folders is also in my inbox. So I have all this like junk.
well, and AT&T is using Yahoo to serve you that mail, and that's, but at least you got the stuff you want. Why do you not like Gmail?
I don't want to go into that because I thought this is the purpose for this course.
Well, but it's a privacy concern, I'm sure, right?
I just don't.
Is it a privacy concern? Oh, okay.
I don't like it.
All right. Use that. The most secure, the most private out there is use Apple iCloud. It's free. And Apple protects. Apple is one of 3 companies that is standing up to the NSA on all of that stuff too. So the Apple Mail would be a good alternative. But believe me, Yahoo is not protecting your best interest, I can guarantee you. So, but other than that, what you can do is, because it went to the server and reached out as why even mail you've checked and everything came in, one way would be to delete it and try set it up with a few different settings would be the only thing.
Okay, so basically go back and remove the email accounts I have on there and set it up again.
Yeah, because as long as you haven't stored stuff in folders since then, because it may lose
No, I
that.
haven't.
Okay. Yeah, give me a call. I'll try to see if we can sort it out a little bit, and because you don't want those thousands of emails, or just go watch the Hoarders show, and then you realize that you're not that bad because everybody. I have 86,000 email messages in my box, so, but it's cumbersome. Here first, and then you.
I had, the thing about the computer here, they set me up at the desk center. Why didn't they set me up to iCloud if it's the best? Why did they set me up to Yahoo?
You already had Yahoo, right?
No.
You had no email when you came and got the computer?
I had in my laptop, AT&T.
That's AT&T Yahoo. They're not changing. They didn't change your email address for you.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a brand new email.
A brand new email? Okay, well, let's talk about that specific case separately.
So should
But
I-
all you do is you go to gmail.com. You can sign up for Gmail if you want. You can sign up for Apple iCloud. Those of you that have business, it's called Exchange. If you're on Exchange server, it can be set up here too. Let's move on from that. You had a question?
One quick question. Okay, you have all of your emails identified right there on the left in this demo. Okay, what if you get, like my wife has her own email address and I have my own email address? How can you identify on the screen which emails are assigned to that
Sure.
individual?
So the question is if you have multiple, like I have multiple email addresses myself, like she had multiple email addresses for work and home, etc. I'll show you how. Well, let me finish this and I'll show you how to expose that. So basically, if we go this and we clicked on Google, we clicked on Yahoo, we clicked on iCloud, it would walk you through, and all it needs is your username and your password, and then it should do all the settings with the exception of the outgoing for Sure West. It doesn't know. And maybe with the CCI buyout, that might get more automated. But that's how hard it is or easy to set up an email account. Now, if we go to this screen and I hit Show, this is the inbox here.
Yeah.
Now, the inbox can contain multiple numbers of other mailboxes. So, this one doesn't do it. Let me see if I have an account. Well, so in your case, you could have your inbox and her inbox,
Right.
and when you click on each one, you're only seeing that. And when you click on inbox, you're seeing the aggregate of both of them. But this brings up a great point. If two of you are going to use the computer, Apple very easily can set up separate users because she's probably going to want to have different websites than you do. She's going to want different music, different things. So you just set up an additional user, and then when you pop into yours, you've got all your mail settings, all your stuff, and then when she pops into hers, got all her stuff. And it's very, very simple. On this computer, I have that many different users, and I can flop between them. I don't want to flop right now because it'll cut the video off. So that might be a way to do it, and then because the other thing is the other person, there's one person that's better at the computer in the household than the other one. And what happens is the person that's not as good is really afraid that they're going to screw up something on your computer on your side. Well, if you have separate user accounts, there's no way one side can screw up the other side. And you can't screw it up anyway, but there's always that fear. Oh man, what if he's been working on this great American novel for 3 years. I don't want to delete it. So if you have separate user accounts, it's just like having two separate computers. Okay? Go ahead.
What are the folders for the file emails?
Oh, where are they or how do you do them?
Both.
Okay? So if you want to do, so you come down here, they're actually called mailboxes, and if I hit the plus sign in the lower left, it says new mailbox, and when I put it, it says where do I want to put it? Anywhere in here in iCloud, let's say, and I'll just call it test. Now I've made a new folder right here.
What's the difference between iCloud and online
On my Mac is stored just locally.
So it's only on.
You don't really want that because we have multiple devices, because if you're going to make this folder, you want to see it on an iPhone or an iPad or even on another Mac. So by doing it in iCloud or Gmail or certain Yahoo accounts, if it's geeky, it's IMAP, that folder would show up on all your other devices. And consequently, when you drag something to that folder, and then it's really simple. So let's say I want to drag something to that folder, I can do it one of two ways. If I hold the Option key, it becomes a plus sign. I'm dragging a copy to the folder.
Option key, sorry.
Yep, Option. It'd be Alt on a PC. So I drag a copy of it, or most of the time when you have folders, you want to clean up your inbox, so you just drag it down there. Now, because we have such great search capability, we don't have to put them in folders if you don't want to. If you're used to it, if you're used to doing it, great. But otherwise, here's our little magnifying glass, and I can start typing in here, Apple, and it shows me people that are related to the message containing Apple. Or if I hit message contains Apple, or the subject, to, from, etc., I can call down through my 86,000 emails, and I have great search capability here. No, I know, but still, hey, you might have misfiled it or which folder you put in. You can do both, but you still have, a lot of people don't do folders, and you don't have to. Just know that you have great search capability, but make sure you delete the search, because otherwise you don't see all your mails. All right, go ahead.
It's not a folder, then. It's just, does it stay in your inbox? Because when I migrate everything, I got thousands, couple thousand over from my PC, but they're all sitting in my inbox. And it says, or mailbox.
You had them in.
It says it's a smart mailbox, but I'm like,
Oh, no, don't. Smart mailbox is a different thing.
all right, well, I just have one place that's all in my inbox.
And you had folders on your PC?
Lots of them, yeah.
Were you using Outlook?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a way to take and export your Outlook into the folders and bring them out. Who's your mail provider?
Well, I use my own.
Oh, so is it an Exchange server?
Yeah.
So if it's an Exchange server and it's set up right, it should actually mirror what's on the Exchange server right here.
So I'll just need back my folders.
That's interesting. Do you have IT guys, or are you just your own? You're your IT guy? An alternative would possibly be, so you used the migration assistant? Okay. And it should have brought it over from Outlook and brought it in. It sounds like it didn't. Well, no, but it should have brought it in. It should have brought it in folders. So you can export it. It gets real geeky here. You can export Outlook into a PST file, and then if you get Outlook on your Mac, you can bring it over to it. So great. Then you know what? It might be, if it's a big thing to you, there's people like myself that can take and get it and bring it into you. But unless it's on your Exchange server, that it should have come over. Can you get right into your Exchange server?
Yeah.
Do the folders show up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Bob would know too. Do you have a laptop? No, but you have a laptop. So Bob can work with that to you. He's happy to do it. And the other thing is, I should bring this up. Yeah, you guys all bought your Macs here. You get to go over to the Apple Store and go through the throngs and the crowds, and you get free time with the Genius if you want. You make an appointment. You get 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. It doesn't matter where you bought it. It's an Apple product.
I guess back to my question. I've got all these emails in my account. Do most people just keep in a large inbox, or do you just create new?
Yeah, but you've spent a lot of time putting those in folders, right?
For years.
Yeah, and you don't want to redo that, do you? Well, a lot of people do, but those that use folders learn to rely on the folders, and so it's all about your workflow. And if that's what your workflow is, every effort should be made to restore that workflow to you, or start over with new folders and kind of leave that as an archive and then have your new stuff coming in. That's the only thing I can say. So, and to be honest, it's because Apple uses generic open source type settings for this. I could export this to other ones, but Microsoft locks their stuff up. It's explicitly Outlook only, and they don't want you to leave, and that's how they prevent you from leaving, is screwing things up like that. It's kind of like there's their way, and then there's everybody else's way. That TV's going to come on in a second. Let me turn it off. They have everything automated here. Hopefully that did it. Good. All right. So digging back into mail, we saw how to make a mailbox. They commonly look like a folder. They're just called mailboxes in here.
So that's another question. So they're calling a mailbox is actually a folder.
Correct.
Because a mailbox in other
It's-
environments is something completely different.
Yeah. Well, a mail account, mailbox, yeah. And so what happened, it's almost like in Explorer it's favorites, in Safari it's bookmarks, and it's nomenclature is all it is. So think of a mailbox here as a folder.
Got it. That's a lot.
You mentioned smart mailboxes. I'll touch on that briefly because, you know, it sounds like we've got some sophisticated mail users here. A smart mailbox is where you say anything that comes from a certain address, let's say, boom, goes right to the smart mailbox. The problem I have with that is if I don't see it in my inbox, I may not see it go into the smart mailbox. So a smart mailbox is a way to set certain rules or certain criteria for it to go to a smart mailbox. Okay? All right, so I'm going to close that back up. And Apple, I think, goes overboard on being minimalist. If we look at the top here, we have all these icons, right? Well, it's been proven that the human eye picks up shapes really well and picks up colors really well. So they made everything gray in the same shape. Makes no sense. Now, I've been doing this a long time, and I still can't readily see what those do with each one. So I go to my computer, and I take my finger and hold the control key down, and I click on the gray area, and I say icon and text. Now you can see what those darn things mean. Okay? Again, click on the gray area, hold the control key down, click on the gray area, and you can be icons or icon and text. And you have to do this for each window, but you do it one time and it sticks. Okay? Next time you fire up mail, it'll be there. So,
Do that again.
control click, or go up here to view. We're going to adjust the view, right? We go down here to customize toolbar. And in customize toolbar, I have how to view it. Icon only, icon and text. But what's really cool is I can add things to that toolbar. So let's get out of this and let's compose a new message. And if I go up to view, I can say customize toolbar. And in this toolbar, I could say, well, put my address book up there so I can readily go into my address book. So if I hit done, now when I click on this, it gives me a read-only version of my contacts. Okay? So that's again, view, customize toolbar, icon and text first. Now, since we're in a new message, I want to show you a few features. The first and foremost is it's good net etiquette. If you're sending out an email to a lot of people, don't put everybody's email address in the to, because that's how spammers get addresses, and it's really impolite to do that. So we have a thing called BCC, and you have to activate it one time, and now BCC will always be there. So those that don't know what this means is if I say to and I put all my family in the to, everybody's going to see everybody else's address. If I use CC, everybody's going to see everybody else's address. But for instance, if I'm sending something to my mom that concerns her and my brother, I would CC my brother so my mom knows that my brother got it so she doesn't have to send it to him. That'd be like in a business situation. BCC, though, is you put the addresses in there. Every person only sees their own address. First of all, it looks personalized. because they're the only one listed on the top, but then they don't see anybody else. I see businesses do this all the time. They send out an email and they've got all their vendors or something else in this big list. God, you can go see who's selling what to who, by doing that. Plus, it's just not good. Use BCC, and the common misconception is you still have to have something in 2 or CC. You don't. Each one of those works independently. You could have all of them in BCC. Okay?
And you got to that
By activating it right here, and once I've clicked it, it will always be there no matter what you do until you tell it to turn off.
Did that say activate BCC?
No, I just click on it. I make a check mark. See, BCC. So here's how it was. See, there's no check mark in BCC. So I click it, and then it's active. Okay? Everything is kind of off on for most of the stuff. Now, people like to make fancy emails. Don't spend hours and hours and hours doing this fancy font with this special spacing, and you're hitting your space bar 12 times to get it centered just right, because the person on the other end may not be able to see it that way. First of all, if you use some fancy old font and they don't have that font, it's not going to show up. Think of email as kind of lowest common denominator. That being said, we have a little button up here that says Format, and when I click Format, this bar will now stay up every time you have mail. And when I go down here, and I'm going to type okay, so I can highlight this text and I can change it to, you wouldn't want to send it out as 36, but I can do whatever I want with the text like this. Okay, so that's this format bar, bold, italic, change it, do whatever you want. So sometimes, like when I reply to someone and they have a lot of different lists of things, I'll just go into their reply and I'll put my reply to them in different colors so it stands out. So you can do that with this. But it gets better because you're on a Mac. A Mac allows you and wants you to be very creative. So if we go over here, we have the ability to say show stationery. Now, once that's up, I have all these neat stationaries that I could pick. For instance, this one. Now, I warn you, the majority of people, even on PCs and on Macs, will be able to see this stationery as it is. Sometimes they have their mail down to not see HTML, which is what the internet uses. If their mail is set to not see HTML, they're still going to see what you wrote, and they're going to still see the photos if you attach them. They're just not going to see all the fancy stuff. So don't, if the person, you say, well, did you like that green border? Well, they may not have seen that green border, but the majority of people will. So again, like I said, email is kind of the lowest common denominator. The question comes up, no, you can't make custom stationery yet. We think in the future you might be able to. Right now it's locked in with this. So if I pick this, then I can go up here. So first of all, I would type and I can say best by class. And while you can change the fonts, what Apple has done is their artists have gotten together and they try to make it all look nicely together with the fonts and the colors and stuff. Now, I have another button up here called a photo browser. If I go up to the photo browser, my iPhoto is not open. You'll notice iPhoto is right there, and it doesn't have a white mark by it. It's not open, but this allows me to go into my iPhoto browser without it being open and simply take this photo and drag it right over to that location. I'll take this one to right there, and let's put this one right there. So I can close that if I want. And by the way, all the albums you make, what look like folders, but in iPhoto they're called albums, show up here. So if you had some from a certain trip or whatever, you're going to access them so you don't have to weed through your 3,000 photos. I'll close that. Now, let's say this is really the one I wanted in the middle. I just drag that photo over it, and look how cool you can make an email. Go ahead.
Is there a way, if I take I have an iPad, an iPhone, and now an iMac.
Welcome.
So, and I'm loving it. But is there a way, I find like if I take a picture with my iPad or my iPhone, and then I want to do something with that on a different device, because I didn't take for instance, I took it with my iPhone, so I'm on my iPad doing something, and I see the picture, it's
right.
transferred over, but I can't do what I want
Okay.
with it because I didn't take it on my iPad. I took it on my iPad.
Well, yes, you can, but rather than go into detail on that, it's going to change this fall, which is really neat. Currently, if I take a lot of sunrise and sunset photos, and I can upload them to my iPad, and then they go automatically to my Mac. But if I manipulate them on my iPad, only the raw photo goes up to my Mac. In the fall, after the first of the year, Apple is going to make it so they all tie together, and I could be, like for me, if I have two Macs or if I have an iPad, any manipulation I do goes to the cloud, just like when you change your contacts, and goes back to your other devices. So sometime January, February, they think it'll be a free app. iPhoto will be replaced by what's called Photos. So yes, you can manipulate it on there, but that's the only place it exists. If you see the photo on there, it won't let you manipulate it. You actually press and hold on the photo, or you go down to the little arrow and say, put this on my camera roll, because it's on your photo stream.
Yeah.
You say, download it to this device, and it'll be just like you took it on that device. The other thing is, when you take photos with your iPhone, and does anyone know what the best camera in the world is?
Your iPhone.
The one you have with you. When I'm at Yosemite and I have my big camera, the big lens, that's right then the best camera in the world to me. But when I'm out and about, the best camera in the world is my iPhone. And it has a wonderful camera. And if it's choice between an iPhone or an iPad, the iPhone always has a better camera than the iPad. Okay? So this wasn't my Utah trip, but this looks like it's Monument Valley and the arches and stuff. So anyway, this mail would go out, and people would see this, most of them, but if they can't see this, they're still going to see the photos as an attachment, and they're still going to see whatever you type. Okay?
So back to my original question.
I'm coming to that in a second. So this you would obviously, and so what you do, the other thing is when you start typing an email in, don't type the person's whole email address. Just start typing it, and then let it pull down, and pick from the pull down menu. The pull-down menu is not only just people that are in your address book or your contacts. This is also people you've either sent or received mail from. Let the autofill work, because inevitably you will mistype it, and then next time you go there, it's going to try to give you the mistyped one. So don't, just choose if it's in the list. If it's not in your list, carefully enter it correctly. You can never have any spaces in an email address, and then next time it'll be there for your fill-in. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of this by just hitting the delete, don't save. Now, your question was, when I get pictures, oh, that's a VCF. Well, first of all, you'll notice there's a little paper clip which indicates there's an attachment to that email. Now, this is one that was made with the Apple stationery, as you can tell. If I go up here, as I hover my cursor right up here, you'll see a little downward facing arrow, okay, right here. If I click and hold, it says export to iPhoto. And this will magically export them right to iPhoto, and they'll be in there where you need them.
Will it save it as is, or will it save it as?
It'll save it however the big attachment was. This appears to be individual photos.
Right.
So it would save not the image, it would save, yes. So, but actually, you know what? It looks like that thing was made as a JPEG. So if I click and drag, see, that thing was all one JPEG. This wasn't made with the stationery. This was made in something else. So that's all one photo. So it would come like that. But let's say this was stationery, like the one we showed you where we had 3 photos. If we had emailed, if somebody had gotten that, click and hold, and it would save all 3 photos. The other thing is, sometimes people will have a little icon on their signature line, like I have on mine. That'll sometimes save that too, and you just delete that once it gets there. Okay?
So if I send something that has my signature on how would I safeguard that?
Well, no, it's like if you have an icon on your signature, which is a photo, you wouldn't safeguard it. No, what'll happen? Oh, yeah, you'd have to. If you want to safeguard it, don't attach it, because it's just like a photo.
Sometimes that's how I send things with Girl Scouts.
Yeah, it's just a photo. So let's say you had a signature, and we go to new message. This doesn't have it here, but when you have a signature in here, there's a little spot right here where you can say turn the signature off for that email.
Where's some of the icon when you're sending something to do an attachment, send an attachment for email?
Okay, so there's two ways to do it. You click the little
Oh,
mark right here, and then I navigate on my computer to go find it. Right there, choose. Now what's unique is, oh, this didn't do it because it's a multi-page PDF. Many times if you attach a single photo or you attach a single page PDF, it will show it to you. Unlike on the PC, it looks just like this with an underline, right? Well, don't worry, it's regular attachment. Mac just says, well, why don't we let you view it? And someone on a Mac will view it without having to download it too. They'll just view. Again, this is a multiple page PDF, so it won't work like that. But if this were a regular PDF or a picture, it's going to show it on the screen and you go, well, no, I want it to be an attachment. It really is an attachment. Apple's just letting you look at what it is you attached.
So you hover over that, or you open that, hover over it, and it says import iPhoto.
On the,
On the photo.
I'm going to go back to that. So I have to activate that and then click and hold and then export to iPhoto.
Okay.
And iPhoto is not on right now. I'm going to export this to iPhoto. My hands will never leave my wrists. And boom, there it imported it to iPhoto. And it's under my last import. Okay? And as we found out, it was one JPEG instead of what we were just doing in there. So now if I just want to delete this, I simply hit delete. Okay, go ahead.
I've got a question about iPhoto. When all my photos are on there, when I want to do like a slideshow and start looking at my photos, it just brings up one picture with some music, and I click, like the next.
That's not what you intended? You know, I was going to do iPhoto after Safari, but let's go ahead and do iPhoto and then we'll go to Safari. Before we do that, any other questions on mail? Because we're leaving mail for the time. Go ahead. So distribution lists or groups, okay? It's not created in mail, it's created in contacts. I will point out that on your iPhone and your iPad currently you cannot make groups. But if you make a group here, the groups show up on your other devices. So we have a distribution list here, so it's a group. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to say new group, and I'm going to call it test. So there's nobody in test, right? But if I go up here to all contacts, I'm going to just grab a few of these people. I don't care how many. Command clicking to do them, or you notice how contiguous, and this is on the keyboard shortcut. If I want to do contiguous, I hold the shift key down and it does contiguous, and then if I hold the command, I can deselect or select individual items. So I've got a bunch of these. All right, so I'm going to drag, so Acme, I'm putting into the Acme and these others, but I want you to look at Acme. I'm going to drop it into test. Okay, now, if I click on test, I see everybody that was there. And if I click back on all contacts, and I'm going to try drag Acme, because I'm not sure if I put Acme in it, I click and hold and drag it to test. It won't let me because it's already there. Now, that brings up the point is, let's say I want to eliminate Acme from my group. If I simply hit the delete key, I can delete it entirely or just remove it from the group. And usually you just want to remove it from the group because you want it in your full list of contacts.
When you delete it from the group, you'll delete it from your whole contacts.
Only if you hit delete.
That's
The middle one here, the middle selection.
We'll delete it from everywhere.
Yep.
Even if you delete it from the group. Okay.
It'll delete it from everywhere if you hit the middle delete, and you notice the default. And by the way, that when you see a default blue button like that, that means you can just simply hit return or enter. It's accepting what the default is, or you can click on it. But a lot of times, if you just don't want to move back and forth, boom, it just deletes Acme from the group. Okay? And that, you got to be careful. And again, it's defaulting to the easier, or the less dangerous route, I guess, would be the best way there. All right. So babysitters, we have book club, etc. So now I'm going to go to mail, because what good is a group if you can't send email to the group? So if I go to new message and I go to BCC because it's a group and it was called Baby Club, right? Well, I don't want to use test because I have to quit mail and come back in because it hasn't sitted in yet. Mail was already running. So this was one of the existing groups, was babysitters. And when I click babysitters, boom, there's everybody's email.
Wait, I'm sorry, so you just created that group, so you can't email it to me?
Well, I can, but it may not show up. I'll try it. Sometimes it takes quitting one of the programs to do it. It did it. Okay, is that on volume? Let me turn that off again. So, and all I did is I took and typed in the first few letters of test, and that's all it took. Or any of your groups, and of course I put it in BCC. And then let's say you have somebody specific you want to exclude from the list. You just hit the delete key.
But they didn't delete from the group, they just deleted from the site.
And they're just, yes, correct. They're just deleting it from this email. Okay? And by the way, you can still hit the address and you'll notice your groups are over here. You can just drag this group to one of the spots and it puts it there. Okay? Now for attachments, you also saw how we did an attachment using the paperclip. But if I also go to my Finder and I see a file here, let's say school report. What is that? Yeah. Oh, that's a big Pages document. Let me go in here. Here, test PDF. I can simply drag this right over the piece of mail and it adds it to the mail. Okay? So that's another way to attach with drag and drop. So, you know, there's multiple routes. Okay, so let's go back to iPhoto now. And in iPhoto, so the way to look at iPhoto, it's a shoebox full of photos. And in the, so here, the main thing is photos. It's this shoebox. It's all your photos, and if I decide to view it, chronologically is usually the best way, but you have other ways of viewing it. But the main box of photos you usually want to view chronologically. Because as I go over here to my scroll bar, ooh, that's right, here's a setting. A little aside here, I'm sorry, this is important. Have any of you tried to scroll and all of a sudden you get over by the scroll bar and it starts disappearing? Because we're used to using the scroll bar, right? And it's bad enough they didn't give us those little up and down arrows and all that. Okay, I should have done this in the beginning. We go up to the Apple logo and we come down to System Preferences, General, and I've already activated here. Normally it's this way, so let's see how that works. I'm in iPhoto and I start scrolling. There's my scroll bar. Oh, I want to go grab my scroll bar. Oh, okay, oh, God, it disappeared. So I got to scroll to get back to it. So again, System Preferences, General, and Always. And now your scroll bar will always be there. And you got to remember that part of the reason for this is you don't have scroll bars on an iPad. You just flick the screen. So those of you that have laptops, when you want to scroll, you take two fingers on your trackpad and simply move your two fingers up and down. System Preferences, General, and then it's this first section and it's Always for your scroll bar.
So if you have your scroll bar on there,
you can still go grab your scroll bar, yeah. It's not elusive now. It's right here. You know, Apple you can be too minimalist at some point. So I'm sorry. I'm a big Apple fan, but you know, I'm out in the real world and I see this and it's like, you know, sometimes this isn't the way to do it. But anyway, but with if you have a desktop Mac and you have the little mouse, you can always scroll with just your single finger up and down on it. On your trackpad, it's two fingers touching the trackpad And wherever your cursor is, you simply slide it up or down, and that's your scrolling. Okay. Some of the PC laptops you had to go over by the edge and all that. Just anywhere on it. Okay. So this is your repository. This is your shoebox of photos. Now, if I do go grab the scroll bar, what's really cool is it shows me the dates where I am on my thing. So I'm grabbing the scroll bar and going here, because that's a lot of times when you have 20,000 photos, you've got it sorted by date. You know about when you took the photo you're looking for. So events is just another way of kind of, think of this as the dividers that are in your shoebox. When you import new photos to here, it will define an event as every 24 hours. So if I'm on a cruise and I have 5 ports of call and I take pictures on every one, it'll make 5 separate events, but I can merge those events, and I could just drag one event over the other and it will merge it. So you would have the whole cruise, so to speak. The other thing that happens is, let's say this morning you took a photo of this class and this evening you're at a cocktail party. Those are within the same 24 hours, but they're 2 separate events. I can go into here and I can say in events, actually, I'm sorry. So those 4 photos, and I can say split event or create event. Okay? Events, again, don't spend a lot of time on it. It's another way to just go find those photos. Now, in this case, they've named them, which is nice, because, again, like that whole cruise, when it comes in automatically, it just has a date on it. And on the cruise, you might want to name each city you go to.
They named them?
I'm sorry?
They named them?
It comes in, no, it comes in and the name is only just a date.
Oh, it's just saying, they
Yeah.
said the name.
So if you want to change that and put your own name.
Yeah, you just simply click where it is one time, and now I could start typing. Okay, and if you want to see what's in the event, first of all, you scroll over the event, but basically you double click the event. Now inside the event, you can't rearrange the photos unless you go and say sort, title, keynote. Yeah, this is more albums. So you don't, again, events are just an easier way to go look at things. If you really want to get specific, you need to make albums. We're going to do that here right now. So, once you have an event, you can make an album out of this event. Let's see, I have Exploring Thailand it looks like it's 22 photos. There was the date range, and I've clicked on that, and I'm going to go up here. Actually, I'll go down here to the right, and I'm going to say add to or share. It doesn't matter. Add to album. Now, do I want to add it to one of my existing albums that are here? No, I want to create a new album. And there it is. And it was just Thailand, I believe. So I can name it whatever I want. I'll just call it Thailand. Now, all those photos from that event have come into here. I can go back to my events, and I'm clicking. I'm going to try add this photo to my Thailand. That would duplicate that one. It doesn't duplicate it in here. It's still the same one photo. But I can go back and grab any other photos I want and drag them to my album. Okay? Now once I can drag them individually, I can select a whole bunch, however I want to do it, and I drag them and I hover over the album and it becomes a green plus sign, which means I'm adding it to the album. And again, if you're not sure if you put it in the album, put it in again because it won't duplicate it. Now, but I might have a picture in 25 albums. I don't want to duplicate my picture all over the place and have all this because it takes resources. It doesn't. Just like your doc is a pointer to the application, these are pointers to the one photo that's in your shoebox. So you're not really taking up any space at all. And if I go in and modify a photo here, it's where it modifies that place that photo is everywhere. So speaking of modification, I'm going to pull up this one photo. Now, obviously these are Apple photos. They're pretty darn good. But if I go down here to edit, I have some quick fixes. One would be enhance, and let's see if it changes it. It brightened it up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not. Yeah. So that's an automatic enhance. If it had red eye, I could fix that. I could rotate it. I can crop it. So if I hit crop, I can move this in. I want to get a closer photo of them. And I hit done. Okay, that kind of gives a little different flavor to the photo. Now, if we zoom this in a little, she has a blemish on her lip right there. Okay? I'm going to fix the blemish without plastic surgery. And I go here, so this retouch comes up, and as I click this little thing, I can see I make my brush a different size. It's a pretty small blemish, so I'm going to go about there. And now I come over here, and that blemish is removed. Did that show up? Now, think about these old photos that you scanned that have the crease through them. You can blend it that way, but I will warn you, this is a quick, simple, easy fix, but when you have sharp edges, it's blurring it. What it does, it samples what's around it and does it like this, so it works well for this blemish kind of thing, but it doesn't work well when you have different colors and things like that. And no, this isn't how you can eliminate somebody out of there, okay? So, to show you how bad it is with sharp edges, if I go here and do it, see, it's just kind of made it blurry. Okay? Go ahead.
Now you said, now when you save this, it saves that picture across the board. Now, what if I want to have a picture as a whole, then again I want to crop a certain area, but I want to keep the picture as a whole. What if I want, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I've just messed up the photo, so it'd be hard to go back to that.
Right.
Your original photo remains untouched forever.
Okay.
Your changes are saved, and everywhere this photo is are the changes, but look what happens here. So I'm going to go to the next photo. Boom, okay, I don't want to mess this one up. Well, that one's still messed up. If I go up to photos, I can say revert to original.
But what if I wanted to keep that photo? I wanted to use that
So-
for the project.
so
I wanted to
here's-
save that.
So here's what happens. You have to take your original photo, duplicate it,
Okay.
and then you can manipulate one of those.
Okay.
But then that takes a lot of room.
So I can duplicate the photo and have two of the same photo.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying. Is
because I know how that is. But don't be afraid, because I can always go back to original photo.
right. I do a lot of photos. I want the photo the way it is, and then I duplicate it for
Mhm.
projects and all that.
Yeah. But again, remember that you can do it for now. You can export it to that project as the way it is, and then you still have the original one there. Okay? So, but the big takeaway here is it doesn't screw up your original photo. Now, we had enhance was one of the first things we did, but we have other effects here. We can go sepia tone, but what I like to show is the adjust is where you can really fine tune this, and this is pretty high horsepower here. So first of all, I can say, let's go ahead, and it's called shadows. You notice how there's darkness behind. I want to bring what's in the shadows out more. And see what's happening behind it? Now, it's not good for the photo in front of you, but it's helped what's back there if you needed to bring out shadows, etc. I can oversaturate things. I can make it blue, etc. I can undo what I just did. The other thing is there's this little thing here. I'm going to change the saturation. I'm going to oversaturate the colors. Notice how things are getting much bluer, and the orange life preserver up there is getting more orange. But their skin tones are not changing because it detects the skin tones and says, I don't want to change the skin tone because that needs to be lifelike. So you can do whatever you want. It's amazing. So that's just a sample of that. I'll revert to original. And now, so we're in this group, and we're going to make a slideshow because it's really hard to make a slideshow. So the best thing to do is to click on, I clicked off and then back on Thailand, or make sure all your photos are selected by hitting select all. Oh, by the way, we're in an album, and like for instance, when I go to a national park, I always take a picture of the sign going in. but sometimes I forget, so I get the picture of the sign on the way out. When I'm doing a slideshow, I really want that in the beginning because it says, hey, Yosemite. So once I'm in here, I can manipulate the photos inside my album. Once it's in an album, this has nothing to do with a slideshow. Once you're in an album, you can sort your photos however you want. You drag and drop them, okay? You were constrained in events, you were constrained, but here in an album, you have more latitude. So now I'm going to go back down to share or add to again.
Wait, I just saw you do something so
Oh, edit?
No, I saw you going and
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I click in the gray area. I click and hold in the gray area and just draw what I want to lasso.
that's what I saw.
All right? Can't get anything past you. All right. So, and I start in the gray area. I can't start on a photo and do it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say add to, and I'm going to do a slideshow. So I'm going to make a slideshow out of all those things, and it's going to be a new slideshow. And it'll name itself Thailand 2 because I already have a Thailand. So I'm just going to edit that down to Thailand. Okay. So now I have a slideshow. I'm called upon many times to do when there's memorials and things like that. It's easy to make a slideshow here. So, there's about 12 more steps and we'll be done. Okay? I'm sorry? Yeah. Oh, hang on. My music. Oh, the music's not coming through here. Trust me, there's music. All right, so let's escape out of that. So now, we've got our slideshow, but I'm not happy. So first of all, when you make an album that you're going to make into a slideshow, throw more pictures. If you're borderline, throw the pictures in it anyway because you don't have to use them. So it's like, do I want this one? Because you might get out there and you might say, well, I need 10 more pictures. Then you got to run out and get them and everything else. I can change the order right up on the timeline here by just dragging the photos to new locations. Now, you had a problem. You said when you play a slideshow, it just does one photo.
Yeah, because I didn't know I had to have it in. an
Yeah.
album.
Yeah. Because you were only playing a slideshow of that one photo.
Yeah.
And that gets a little old.
I was so used to my other one, where you click on the first one and then it automatically.
Once you're in here in the slideshow, it doesn't matter if you're clicked on one or not. But what it does is, let's say I'm working on a slideshow and inevitably you don't want to keep replaying the first part of it because you've got that part down. You could go here and you can start your preview from where you were. It goes from there. Okay? Now, down in the lower right, we have a text slide is a slide you can insert. It's pretty limited what you can do. But let's say I want to insert a text slide right here. Boom. Come on. Okay. So that puts this little test slide. And I want to do themes. Now I want to show you my favorite theme. So as I pull up themes, which is right down here, as I pull up themes, as I hover over each theme, it gives me a preview of what that theme does. I'm not touching anything. I've just hovered my cursor over it, okay? Snapshots. And remember, you guys got this for free. Vintage prints is one I like, so I'm going to tap on vintage prints, and I'm going to say choose. Now, what's interesting about vintage prints is you'll notice the rest of the photos that are in my slideshow are in black and white behind it, so it really gives you a nice feel. And it does a wonderful job of taking photos that are both landscape view and portrait view. As you'll see, the second photo is portrait, so let's go ahead and preview that. Boom. It's being there. See, it handles the portraits really well. So, our other settings, let's hit preview off. The other setting is music. And let me check my sound here really quick because it's supposed to. Room Apple TV. What it is they don't have their volume set for this, so it'll play not so well, but it'll play through my internal speakers here. So, in sounds, it comes pre-packaged with theme music. Now, if you're going to put it on YouTube or places like that, you have to be careful, because if you use copyrighted music, which is what you would get from iTunes, it depends on what the artist and their record label has decided. They'll either let you play it, they'll strip it out, or they'll let you play it and it'll overlay with a little ad or things like that. So you have to be cognizant of that. But if you use the theme music that comes free from Apple, you are able to use this because it's royalty-free music. So it's not copyrighted. You can use it wherever you want. Now, if you're just going to make a slideshow and present it to people you know and things like that, use whatever you want. If it's like for a memorial service or for a wedding or anything like that, you can use your iTunes music. And how I do that is I go into iTunes and I go here like to road trip music. And I select the music I want, and I hit custom playlist here. The other thing is I can, let's say, hit here, I can preview the music. So that's a preview. Okay, so I'll stop that. If I want that song, I can drag it right down to here and put it into my playlist. I click and drag, and let's say I click and drag on this one and drag it down here. Now, remember that 6 seconds is kind of the average for a slide in a slideshow, depending on what's on, if it's a lot of text or anything, but realistically about 6 seconds. So if you have a slideshow, take a calculator and figure out, don't forget it's 60 seconds per minute, don't use the 100 because it kind of messes things up. Figure out how many slides you have, and that'll tell you approximately how much music you want. So I've chosen both of those. That's going to be long for this. The slideshow will be long, but let's just go ahead and play this really quick. Can you hear it barely over the beeps? Okay. Now, what's really cool is when I click back on my music here, I've selected iTunes, it saves it. Then if I go to my settings, I can say play each slide for a certain length of time, 6.5 seconds. Or if I've done my calculations well, I can tell the slideshow to fit the length of the music. So they will both end at the same time. And it'll calculate it. Now if I did that, I've only got 22 slides and I got like 8 minutes of music, it wouldn't be right. But just to show you, that's what it does.
Have you ever used Flipagram?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever used Flipagram?
Uh-uh.
You do a slideshow with pictures and music. Pretty
No.
cool.
I just use this because it's easy. The other thing is you want to show here the aspect ratio. This is essentially where you're going to show it. 16 by 10 is a computer. Most TVs would be 16 by 9. And to see how it kind of resizes it. So, but don't worry if it doesn't do that. It's fine. And then from here you can export, etc. But, you know, really, how hard was that? We tweaked it. But let's go back and let's, from scratch, it was a slideshow to begin with. We'll go to South America here. And I'll say, create a slideshow.
It shows how to print too.
Okay, I don't have a printer hooked up. I'll show you a setting now.
What you go to if they're gonna do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't print this because it's a slideshow. But yeah, hang on one sec. So that's that. And now if I just hit preview, this is the built-in theme. And it just does it. All I did is go from the album and make a slideshow. You guys can get really creative. You have all kinds of tools at your hand. And this is the fun part. You know, you spend hours and hours and hours on this. So we talked about printing photos. So just go to a photo. I'm going to click on this photo. And you go to print photo. I should point out, you can also order prints. And the books are beautiful. You can order hardcover books or softcover books. Where just like making a slideshow, you make a book. And it is fantastic. I'll show you. So anyway, here you can choose how you want to print it as just a sheet, multiple photos, etc. And simply hit print. So I'm going to cancel that. The other thing is let's grab, it's easier to see it as an album. I'm going to go to an album, and I'm going to say new book from that album, or from that. And then I have all these styles of books I can do. And it's auto-filled, and look at this. 8.5 by 11 book. The first 20 pages are $29.99, and then it's $1 a page after that.
Where is this?
Oh, it comes from Apple. So if you have a credit card on your Apple account for iTunes, it would just charge that. And the quality is exquisite.
Can you edit text and all that?
Yeah. That's a whole 3-hour class on to do books. But just play with it. You're going to see what it is.
3-hour class, you do this?
We've done it in our iPhoto 3-hour class, but we're not going to do any more iPhoto classes till the new Photos comes out after January.
Oh, so you go up there to file.
And then that number has.
File, and we made it into a book. Remember, we made a slideshow. Now we made it into a
I'm
book.
just talking about printing it.
Printing was back here. That was a second ago. We just go to Photos. Come on. I click on a photo. File. Print. And then you get some options here. Now, also you can email photos, but I warn you, you can't email a lot of photos if they're big, because of an email shouldn't exceed 5 megabytes. Yes, some people can go up to 20. Most can handle more than 10, but I always say 5 megabytes. So I've got these photos selected. Let's do a few more. And if I go down here, I want to share it. I want to share my photos. So if I click on share, I can upload it directly to Flickr, which is one of the parts of Yahoo I really like. I post my photos to Flickr. You get 1 terabyte of free storage. You can post your photos up there. They can be private or they can be public. So it would upload them to there for other people to view. You can post directly to Facebook from here. You have to sign in with your Facebook account. But we're talking about mail. And if we go there, it composes a mail. And remember, we had stationery and Apple Mail. Well, we've got lots of other stationaries here we can choose from. Oh, I have too many photos to do it other than Classic or Journal View. And look here, it's almost 72 megabytes. So we don't want to send actual size. We need to say medium. We're down to 3.97 megabytes, and you can send that. Because the photos were too big and too many to send over email, and you'll just get an error. Okay? They'll see it this size. So what you can do is you can send them the photo, and if they want a specific one, they want to print or something, then you send that one individually. With the new Photos app coming, the sharing is going to work out real well. I'm going to select fewer photos, and now we're going to hit share by email. And now I have some other choices here for different kinds of stationery, for instance. And again, the photos will be attached to it. Okay? So that's iPhoto. Any quick, remember, you make an album, you drag the stuff to the album, you have tons of latitude on it. The other thing I'm going to point out on this is it has facial recognition built in. So if you go to Faces and you click on here, it will go through your library and find the similar person that has it. It's a algorithm of the eyes, nose, and the mouth.
I have no of those faces. How do you get it?
You go to the first photo. So here's one with a face. And if I click on info, then it says one unnamed face. And I would name this face Tom. I don't know if this is Tom. So there's Tom. And then it says see more photos of Tom and faces. And I go to faces. And now I double click on Tom. And it says he might be in 9 additional photos. So I say confirm. It brings him up. And then I decide if that's him or not.
So you have to go, I started that process and it's like.
It can take about,
thousands of
yeah.
Faces, so you do have to go through each individual one and say, they say, is this Sarah? You can, yes or no.
Yeah, or you can do the confirm additional and it'll do it. But the thing is only do it for people you're ever going to search for, because, you know, if you're on a cruise and you have table mates for the whole cruise, you're never going to want to search for those people again. You can waste a lot of time. But just think how nice and easy it is. Like, for instance, if I want to see all the pictures of my brother and his wife, I search by both of them and it brings them. I can say Sue and Gordon, or I can just say Sue, pictures of Sue and also pictures of Gordon. The tough one is my nephew has twin boys. So all their pictures are John and Will. I didn't name them separately because I can't tell them apart. I'll bet you facial recognition could have because they're not identical twins, but they're pretty close. But that gets a little crazy. And it will point out cats, but not dogs. And don't be alarmed because sometimes the stucco or the texture on the wall will think it's a face in there. So kind of like, they see Jesus in the toaster, that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know why. And don't ever try to correct the eyes on animals. You know how the red eye animals get really weird ones? It makes them look dead when you try to correct it. So, all right, photos, we're good? Go ahead. Yeah, so the question was, can it recognize children as they get older? For the most part, and in fact, what's funny is you start to go through it, you'll see the familiar resemblances, and it'll bring in one. So if one comes in and it's not that person, click. Don't just not confirm it, click no it's not because you don't want it to keep coming up. But actually this algorithm never changes, and so as they grow older, it should do it pretty well. It's amazingly accurate, scarily accurate. All right, so that's photos. Now we're going to go to Safari, which is the web browser of choice. You can also download Firefox, which has finally gotten a little bit better. Safari is the best browser and the fastest browser for the Mac. But another really competent browser is Google Chrome, and it's a very good browser.
How do you change that? My school wants school.
Change schools.
That's my employer.
No. Have you tried it in Safari?
Yeah.
Is there incompatibility?
They want us to use either Chrome or Firefox, or they won't let us on the network.
Okay.
So how do I download?
Change it as the default. Okay. So it's really easy. To download it, you just go to, you can just type in
Like
Google Chrome, boom. And Chrome's a great browser.
Yeah.
So you just
I
see.
started using it over the summer.
So I would just click here and then download it. And then what you want to do is if you want to make it your default browser, in Safari you go to Preferences and you say make my default browser Chrome.
Hey, trust me, I've worked with this.
No, that's fine.
This is my third year, and this is the first year. that
Chrome is a very good browser, but I would recommend when you're browsing on your own, shut down Chrome and go to Safari because Chrome has a tendency to use more resources of your computer, which is no big deal, but for battery life and for the computer operating quicker, Safari is a little better, but it's fine. But Firefox, the new one's kind of okay, but Chrome's a great browser. I use Chrome a lot, but only because Safari has just recently gotten really good.
Yeah, this is my first year, but I said, okay, fine, I'll work on the network.
Yeah. All right, so that brings up downloading. Now, Apple doesn't install Adobe Flash in your computer. And Apple's trying to save you from Adobe Flash because Adobe Flash slows the computer down and things like that. Basically, that's a lot of the videos on the internet. The smart web designers are not using Flash anymore. The lazy web designers still are. So what happens is everybody's using what's called HTML5. But you'll need to get Adobe Flash because you're going to get that little thing that says missing plugin. So when I fire up Safari, I come to the top bar and I'm just going to type in get Adobe Flash. Okay? So once I get Adobe Flash, that takes me to the website and I see, first of all, I visited it recently because it's kind of in purple instead of in blue. And I'm going to show you how to download it and install it because you'll need to. And there's other things you'll install later too. And you know what? You're on a Mac, so you don't have to worry. You can't get hurt by installing things. Hit the Flash player, it comes to this page, and then down here it says Install Now. So I click on Install Now, and everybody watch the screen. You're going to see a little thing go whoop. Okay, come on, go whoop. There it went. So now you'll notice I have a little arrow up here in the upper right-hand corner. That's a download arrow, and when I click on that, I see Adobe Flash Player is something I've just downloaded, right? So if I double click here, oh, if it was still downloading, there would be a little barber pole progress bar, so you couldn't click on it till it's done. And if I double click, it's expanding it, and it brings up this little thing called a package. Now, why in the world doesn't Adobe say, please double click on this folder to install? Would it cost them a lot to put that on there? Okay, now, and have people call me up, and they've downloaded it 6 times, but it never installed because you have to double click the folder. And now, this is just a little warning to say, look, you've downloaded something, are you sure? Remember, you're on a Mac, it's okay, but Apple implements this because if there ever was any type of exploit, this would be the stopgap to keep that from happening. Go ahead.
Would I need to download that Flash Player on my iPad?
You can't do, this is the whole thing is, very few Androids allow it, but the iPhone, the iPad won't, because Flash uses so much resources, your battery life would be down to under an hour. So that's why the smart web designers, the ones that aren't lazy, are designing it as HTML5, because then you can see the video. Half the world views the web on an iPad. And it's foolish to not be able to see, because most of that Flash is ads, and it's foolish for those ad designers to not have it where people on iPads can see it. Not that you want to see the ad, but you know, that's the point. So Flash is not available on those devices. So we hit open, and here it is. Now, this is asking you for your computer user password, not your email password, not the security code for your PIN at your bank. This is asking you for the password that you did with your computer. And then at this point, it would just continue to install, etc. I'm not going to install it because I have to show this on the class every time. So, but you would type in your password. If you don't know your password, it might. Now, the other thing is, I operate most of my accounts with no password. Even though this pops up, it doesn't mean I have to enter a password. If it's no password, I just hit OK. All right? But if I type in something, I'm just going to type in gobbledygook, and I hit OK, the screen shakes and goes, oh, that's not it. Okay? So make sure, and on that little list we have, that's what it says, the login or username. That's the important one. Make sure you have it, because anytime you install stuff on your computer, you're going to need it. It's the same one if when you boot up your computer, if it asks you for a password in the very beginning, that's this password. Okay. Some people, it's the same password as your Apple ID. So that's how you would install Adobe Flash Player, and you wouldn't get that missing plug-in thing anymore.
May I ask you one thing? Is
Sure.
Puffin the same type of a thing?
Is what?
Puffin? Have you heard of Puffin?
It's a browser, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is some kind of a browser.
Yeah, just use
Well,
some.
I had mentioned to Bob, the consultant here, because this summer when we were over in Maui, I wanted to book our next trip for next summer over there. Well, the thing is, I was using my iPad.
Right.
And they said that with the iPads, unless you have Firefox installed on it, you couldn't do it. Because it wouldn't show all the information like a confirm button or whatever.
Well,
Just utilizing Puffin, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just an alternate browser for the iPad. To be honest, it's like everything else. If half the people are viewing it, wouldn't you think if they want your money that they would update that stuff? Kind of like, don't you think Quicken would go beyond 2007 for the Mac? So, I mean, it's again, I support people that support us and take the effort to make things work. Why should I have to jump through hoops to do different things, you know? And it's not really, and see, that's not a Mac compatibility issue. What it is Flash is horrendous. When I have customers that they on an older Mac, and in fact, it's the same thing on a PC. On older PCs, when AT&T comes and installs, they make it go to the Yahoo homepage, and it serves up so much garbage that it renders the computer not slow, completely unusable because of all the crap that's going on. This is on older computers that have less resources, but that's inexcusable. So, all right, what was the question back here? Okay. So in Safari, if you want to bookmark something, you simply hit the plus sign. If I want to put something on this bar across the top, I simply drag it to the bar. And when I do, I don't want it to be a long name like this. I would just call it Flash because that's pretty expensive real estate. And now every time I click on this, it would take me right to that, like here at a Best Buy. I'm going to remove that. Now, I want to show you a couple really cool features. If we go to CNN.com. Now, everybody notice up here in the upper right, it says Reader, but it's grayed out. Because we're at CNN's main page where there's a lot of different articles. And look at all the stuff you're seeing, all this garbage on the side and all that. Now, if I go down here and I want to say, let's look at, here's an article, Anne Frank's final entry. I just don't know what it is. Now, look at this. The Reader became blue, right? When the Reader became blue, I can now click on that and look how clean the article is. And I can make the font larger. I can make the font smaller.
Friday, August 1st, marks the 70th anniversary of Anne Frank's final diary entry.
So that's called Reader. I'm going to show you on an iPad or an iPhone where you have that also. Yep. And it really, really, really helps. So the Reader was just the speech I did. I'm sorry. The Reader is what gives you this really clean. You don't see the ads. If you were going to print this, wouldn't it be nicer to print it from this than it would be to print that other one? So let me... So if I'm on an iPad, this is a special program that lets me show my iPad on the screen. So now I'm at the main CNN page, right?
You're able to do all this because you downloaded Adobe Flash.
No,
No?
that was just showing you how to download.
And so I think she was going to ask why you need that Flash.
Only to see certain videos on the web. Most of YouTube can be viewed. See, it's really weird. Facebook is stupid because if you try to view some videos here directly, it needs Flash. But if you click the link and let it go over to the side, it views it fine. So they can't get it right. All of YouTube is available in HTML5 or Flash, and it usually defaults to HTML5. If you just get it where you can't see a video for some reason or another, it's Adobe Flash. Once it's downloaded, it's in here, it'll update on its own and everything else. But just let's hope the day comes where we don't need Flash because it's horrendous. So I'm going to go back down to that opinion article on the Anne Frank diary final entry, and I'm on my iPad. And if you look, I don't have the Reader button, but I have these little lines right here. If I tap those lines, I have Reader on my iPad also. Okay? So it's much cleaner. Same applies to your iPhone. And again, it doesn't say Reader, it's just these little dotted lines up there. Okay? Now, it doesn't work on the main CNN because it's really like a table of contents. Right? So I'll shut that.
How do you do that sound?
Oh, I just did speech. I highlight this and I control. This happens everywhere, not just Safari. This is a great way if you're making a document in Word or in Pages and you want to proofread it. You do Control, after you highlight it, Control, click, and come down to Speech. Start speaking. Okay? Now, many times, let's say, if I want to highlight this word or just where this is, I'm going to Control, click on this. And I even have the ability to say, look up anniversary, and we all of a sudden get dictionary definition of it. This would also apply in emails, anywhere else, anywhere you have text that you can highlight. Control, click on the word, and it'll highlight it. Okay? All right, it'll give you the so again, I'll go back to that. Let's say arrested. Control, click, and I say look up arrested. But the other thing too is you can go right to Google. You could Google what if you found a word you wanted to know, or you wanted to search more for arrested, it would bring it up in Google. And then that's, of course, where the speech is then. Start speaking. And I warn you, if you do a really long one, you're halfway through, you got to go in and click back again and just say stop speaking. So, but it's a great way to proofread your own stuff.
I wanted to ask you one thing.
Sure.
Where on the Mac can you go to determine how much of your RAM you use with everything you currently have on the system?
Okay.
Because you had mentioned earlier that you go like a Flickr and get a terabyte of memory free of charge where you can store all of your pictures.
All right.
That's the reason I'm bringing it up.
So RAM and storage are totally different. Let's just give a real quick
Well, let's deal with
de-geekify this thing because we're talking Greek to a lot of people here. So let's ungeek, but let's do this. Your computer has a brain in it. That's your Intel processor. You can't do anything to change that, just like we can't do anything to change our brain. We can't make it better. We can always make it worse, right? Then we have, the way I like to equate it is, let's say you're doing a research project and you have 30 books that you know you're going to have to reference to make this paper. If you go to the library is full of books. That's your hard drive or your solid state drive. That's your storage, okay? That's the storage of the library. That's at your beck and call. Now, the number of books in there doesn't slow you down or speed you up unless it gets too full, just like here. The amount of data you have in your computer will not slow your computer down or speed it up unless you get to that last little bit where you have hardly any left. But when I sit down at a table to do my research with these 30 books, if I'm at a table this side, I'm hard-pressed to put 30 books on here. So I might be able to have 1 or 2 books on here at a time, and then I got to take those 2 back, get other books. That really makes it slow if I'm cross-referencing and doing all this. The RAM, which is the memory inside the computer, remember the hard drive is storage. RAM is memory inside the computer. Essentially, the more RAM I have, the bigger desk I have, and I can be more efficient. These days, it's not about books, our photos. If you have a camera that takes very high resolution photos, or you're editing a video, you need a big table, which is RAM. RAM on some Macs is upgradable, on others it may not be, but that's what RAM is. And he asked, how do I see what RAM I'm using? There's a little program built in, and this I've not done in these classes before. I just type in activity, monitor. And you're on a Mac, you should just relax.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about this geeky stuff.
Well, I just wanted to know.
But if I go here to memory, here's the CPU usage. That's how much the brain is using. It's using my QuickTime Player pretty heavily right now because I'm recording this entire screen. That's a big deal. But if I go to memory, here's my memory usage. My computer has 16 gigabytes of RAM, and my pressure on it is very little. What you're looking for is swaps here. And what the swaps are is if you're overtaxing your RAM, if you're exceeding the size of your table, it starts using your hard drive, and that's a little slow.
Yeah, you can see right there, you use almost 11 gigabytes of your memory, and you only have a total of 16. So you start encroaching upon that, you want to do something with it. And that's why I mentioned that.
What would I do with it?
Well, the thing is, weren't you talking about utilizing Flickr or something?
No, that's storage.
That's storage.
And I don't move my photos to Flickr, I copy them to Flickr.
Oh, copy, okay.
Okay. If you want to see what your Mac has, if you go up to the Apple logo, and strangely enough it says about this Mac, I click on that. This shows us what the operating system is, but if I hit more info, what's really cool is this gives you a little, it says, there's my memory, that's my RAM. I have 2 slots. If you have a 27-inch iMac, you have 4 slots. Everybody else has 2 slots. That's the RAM. Remember, that's the size of the table. But storage is the hard drive. Now, I've just ordered a 1 terabyte solid-state hard drive for this, so my storage is going to drop a lot because I have a lot of these recordings. Like today's recording will be probably about 3 gigabytes. SuperDrive, I have that. All of you probably don't have a optical drive or a DVD drive on your computer. You can get the Apple one for $79, or pretty much any of the ones you can buy aftermarket that fit in the USB allows you to use that for DVDs or things like that. The reason Apple eliminated it, it makes it slimmer, but also that's actually the first thing that fails on any computer. So.
I'm kind of surprised that Apple doesn't allow you to expand the RAM though on like the Macs.
They do on the 27-inch.
Well, yeah, or if you get the 27.
Well, there's some reasons for that, and because they use they're able to extract so much from the RAM that typical off-the-shelf RAM is not efficient enough.
But we got to take it. That's fine.
All right, so back to Safari. Now, a lot of times you'll be on a website, and I'm on CNN's homepage, and it says Lifestyles of the Rich and the Religious, okay? So if I wanted to send this to someone, I could go to the little share button right there, the share button. And by the way, for expansion and stuff, the Big Mac Pro would be the way to go, which is what the Pro users use, and it's got huge expandability. And I go email this page. So now when I click email this page, it automatically fired up mail if it was off. It's put this home page on here, but if we look right here, sometimes you don't want to send the whole page. If we go right here, I can choose to send it as. Now, Reader's grayed out, remember, because the main CNN homepage didn't allow us to do Reader. Or a PDF, which is portable document format, is great. It can send it as that, and it still has clickable links. Or just send it as a link only, which is how you normally see it. Now, let's say this was about some child molester that just got arrested, and it's the headline on CNN. You know, this guy's been on the hunt. We've been on the hunt for him for 10 years, and we finally got him. And you say, wow, that's great news, they got him. And that's on the CNN homepage. And you send the link to somebody. And they don't check their mail till tomorrow. And then it says, there's been a train crash in China, 300 people dead. And you said, isn't this great news? So that's the flaw of sending the link to the main page that changes a lot. If I send this page, they'll get a snapshot of it. But what we can do back in Safari is, if we go to the article itself, when we get to the article, first of all, we have Reader available. But second of all, now when I send this page, which this was about the child molester that got caught, you can say, isn't this great news? And boom, they get the page. Or in this case, you could still send just the link. Or you can send the Reader version of it. Okay? So there's a couple ways to do it. It's all with the share button. But again, just be careful. If you're sending a page that changes a lot like a news page, it could be taken totally out of context. And so that just automatically fires up mail right from there. All right, so in Safari, the other thing you can do is, let's see where I go. Let's try this. If you go to a website and you're going to buy something, say from Amazon or whatever, and all of a sudden it's the first time you've been to that site and it says, okay, put in your email address and your name and your address. Has anybody had an autofill on them? Is that kind of scary? It's not Big Brother. It's actually looking into your contacts and the information you put in for yourself, it's autofilling that. So don't worry. It's the first time you've been there. I'm trying to think if I could go. I'll have to find a site that I can go to where it requires us to fill out a form. But anyway, no. Yeah, but you got to go through an order and everything, don't you? Yeah, what I'll do is I'll dummy up a page for future times to do that. But anyway, don't be alarmed. But that's also why you want to go to your contacts. And there's going to be one card in there. So if I go to all contacts, see this one for John Appleseed that has a little, looks like a target, a silhouette right there? That's the My Card. And by having the My Card filled out completely with your information, whether it be a work address, a home address, or both, different emails, it will autofill what you need in Safari. And Google Chrome will also support the autofill. And it also has the ability in Safari to save your passwords. And the beauty of that is, if you decide to let it save your passwords, it now through the cloud will go over and save it on your iOS device too. So passwords are a pain in the butt, and I know how they are. But Apple is trying to make that better. They're very securely saving that password, and it's in a special secure little spot. It lets the password go over to the other devices. It will also let Safari store credit card numbers, and you get worried about that, but I'd rather have my computer store my credit card without the CVV code and without the expiration date than have Pizza Hut store my credit card. It's a lot safer in here. And that way, also, you're not typing your credit card so people aren't looking over your shoulder.
I'm sorry, you're saying that Johnny Appleseed is that owner with
That's in this one, yeah, it's the My Card, that silhouette.
so that Johnny Appleseed would be me.
Correct. It would be your name. So look for it. And if it's not defined, you go up to card and you say, go to my card. Okay? Now, I know we all have duplicates that show up in our address book and things like that. You can always go up to card and say, look for duplicates. And let's see here. There are in here. So it would merge those cards because sometimes you get them from separate sources and things like that. So this is a way to really clean it up. And I'll hit cancel. Now, before we go ahead.
Well, this is a little, it's kind of off the subject, but it's bugging me. I keep getting these messages by iCloud that I don't have enough to back up.
Don't have enough room.
Yeah, they want me to buy space. And I think, I don't, please tell me.
You don't get it on this. Okay,
Put
so
it on your iPhone.
And,
so the deal is your iPhone can back up to your computer is the way we used to do it. Your iPhone, your iPad, etc. And it's stored on the computer and then it's backed up because I'm going to talk about backup in a second, which is very important. But the iOS devices are now designed to be, as Steve Jobs described it, the post-PC era where these stand alone and don't need a computer to activate anymore, but you want to be backed up. So what it'll do is it takes, because inevitably if you lose it or precious photos on here, and that's the only place they are, you want them back. So this can back up to iCloud, and that's where you're running out of room. In the fall, Apple will be introducing what's called iCloud Drive. They give you 5 gigabytes for free now. They'll give you 5 gigabytes for free later, but they're going to have a very economical plan to give you 20 gigabytes for $2 a month.
but since all of my photos on my iPad are backed up into my iMac now, I don't need that extra storage.
Okay.
If something if I lost
So
it,
quickly, you can go in and go into your settings on your iOS device, to iCloud, storage and backup, and then when you say manage storage, you can tell it not to back up certain things, or you might have old devices you need to get rid of. Okay? So you can just tell it what to do there.
Or you can back it up if you want.
To the computer, but you need to turn it off. Okay.
Stop it from telling me constantly that.
Well, it will. And again, it's just saying, hey, look, you don't have we can't back up your stuff because I had a client who lost the last video of her father before he passed away playing on a piano. And to recover that was priceless. And I was able to go back into Time Machine and get it for her. But it was lost forever because it wasn't getting on the iCloud. So it's letting you know, because if they didn't, people would blame Apple for it not backing up. So speaking of backups, this is really important. Is there anyone here that has lost data before on a hard drive, a bad hard drive? Okay, pretty gruesome when it happens, right? Years ago, I had a database in an early Mac laptop, and I was just getting ready to back it up. I was plugging in the backup, my hard drive went poof. And I spent $1,200 15 years ago to have the data recovered off of it. Apple has a built-in program called Time Machine. It's built in, it's free, and all you need to do is they have the drives on sale here. You can get the little portable ones the size of 2 iPhones, or you can get the big one that plugs into the wall. It doesn't really matter. But the hardest part is going to be getting that thing out of the box. You take it, you take the little USB cord, and if you use the little ones, they're powered by the USB port. You stick it in your computer, and after a few seconds, it'll pop up and say, well, I see you've plugged in an external hard drive. Would you like to use Time Machine? And you say yes. You say yes. And then it says, but I'm going to erase that brand new drive that has no information on it for you so it can work with Time Machine. Is that okay? and the default is no, of course, so you go and click erase. It will erase that drive, and then every time that drive and when it's plugged in will back up your computer every hour. Now, the first backup takes a long time because it backs up everything on your computer. After that, it simply backs up every hour as you create new data. If you don't plug it in for 2 weeks, no problem. You plug it in, it'll do whatever you've created in the meantime. Apple does not call it backup, they call it time machine. Because if I delete a document right now and 3 months from now I decide I need that document, I can reach back into Time Machine and recover that document if I want and restore it right to my computer, an old photo, anything else. That's how I was able to recover this lady's video that she had.
Does it hold a terabyte of information?
However big drive you get.
Oh, okay.
So basically, rule of thumb is the backup hard drive should be 2 to 3 times the size of what your internal drive is. But hard drives are cheap these days, and it works like your DVR on your TV. What happens is once it gets full, it has the option of overwriting your oldest deleted data. It won't delete anything you currently have, but it would overwrite your room for more. But to be honest, once it gets full, unplug it, archive it, and take it somewhere else. And if you have stuff that's very vital and important, like photos from the trip to Mozambique, and you'll never go there again, you get 2 time machines, 2 hard drives, and you put the second one in. It says, do you want to use both of these? And that one you take and go put it more than 10 blocks from your house. Because if you have your computer here and you have your time machine back up here and a meteorite hits your house, you've lost everything. If it's off-site, you can at least go recover it. Maybe you did it a month ago. If you take 30 pictures in the backyard, don't rush out and get it. If you take a trip and you come back with 1,000 new photos, go get that hard drive, back it up, and then take it back to the safe deposit box or a work desk or somewhere else's house. And it's just... Apple doesn't build the hard drives, and if they did, they still can fail. But let alone laptops. Laptops get stolen. iMacs get stolen from people's houses all the time. If you have a backup off-site, you're covered from that. And it prevents catastrophic drive failure also. Or not prevents, excuse me. It covers you if you have catastrophic drive failure. So it's called Time Machine. All you have to do, and you don't have to buy the one that says Mac here or anything. Any hard drive. You plug it in, it will work just fine. It will format it how it needs to be. Question?
So you're saying that if you have a terabyte hard drive on your Mac, you should have a hard drive that's an external hard drive that's 2 to 3 terabytes?
2 to 3, but really you can judge it by, remember we went to this about this Mac.
Yeah.
You know, I look at it, you should have at least 3 times what you're using, but you guys are brand new to it. Hard drives are cheap. So here's storage. This gives you an indicator of how much you have in there. Like me, I'm getting close to, I've got 480 gigs taken up. And when I put the 1 terabyte in here, of course, you'll always expand to what you have. I had 180 gig in here before that. So Time Machine, I can't stress it enough. It's really easy. Apple makes a device called a time capsule. You don't necessarily need it. It's the device instead of the hard drive, but it's also a wireless router for you. And it's a good thing, but to be honest, just get a hard drive, plug it in, that's all you need to do. No muss, no fuss. And you know, you're gonna, at some point you put your computer, your laptop down to charge it, plug it in when you charge it. If you have a desktop iMac, leave it plugged in all the time. It does not hinder performance. It will slightly slow down the performance during this first backup, which would probably take, 3-4 hours. Okay? Any questions? Anything I haven't covered? If you have specific things, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. That's special things. Your Outlook thing is really probably more of a hands-on thing on that, and I'm just surprised it didn't come over from the Exchange server correctly. So, yes.
When I bring up Safari on the left-hand side.
Oh gosh, yeah. Don't you hate that? It looks like this, or it looks like this, right? So just click that, and actually, let's see. I think there's a setting. Yeah, it only did that in the latest iteration. So let's see. Safari opens with a new window, and new windows open with, and just change this to home page. So I'll tell you where I went here. I went inside Safari. I have preferences, and over in preferences. And here's where you could set the home page you want it to be, but also Safari opens with a new window every time you open it. Sometimes you can set it to do the windows from last session, but in your case, it's new window. And then I want to say, because it's a new window, when I open that new window, what do I want to do? I probably want to go to my home page. Okay? So that's, you know, it's a pain in the butt. I don't know why they did that. Because actually, to be honest, what it really is it's for the user that's not used to it and says, oh, I want to see my bookmarks. That's really why it comes up like that. But yeah, it's a pain.
I got a question.
Here first and then you. No, go ahead, you.
What if I want to have multiple browsers open? How do I do that?
You mean like Chrome and Safari?
No,
Or multiple windows?
multiple windows open.
Okay, you can do multiple windows, but what I encourage you to do is not do multiple windows, but to do new tabs.
Yeah, tabs.
Tabs are great, so I can open all the tabs I want. Command T opens tabs. So what she's saying is let's do this. Let's do a Google search for Chevy Volt, let's say. So it's searching for Chevy Volt. Now I get this list. And why am I not?
I
Wow.
get that a lot on Safari.
No, but it should have done a Google search. See, I'm in this. Let me close this bookmarks thing. Come on, close. So let's say apple pie recipe. Apple pie recipe. I get a list here. If I hold down the command key, both sides of your space bar,
It's that,
the clover leaf. Yeah. So I'm holding that down while I click on this. Then I come down here and click on this, and I'm opening them in tabs. And if we look across the top, see there are little file folder tabs opening up across the top. And the beauty of this is because when you do, hold command and then click the link like you normally would. Because normally you click on a link, you go to the window, then you come back to it, come back and forth, back and forth. What I've done here is I've opened them up in tabs, and now I can say, well, does that look like the one I want? No, let's look at this one. And then if I say, no, that's not what I want, I hover over this, and it closes that tab. Tabbed browsing is great because they're all in one. It takes less resources than open windows, because if you do open windows, there's an occasional time when you want to put windows side by side, but not usually. Okay? Cool, good question on that, and I love tab browsing. And Google Chrome's exactly the same, and so is Firefox. So, all right, any other, oh, you had a question, I'm sorry. Like in a browser? Okay, if it's in the browser, you can go up here. Well, here, let's just go to this. It would be under View, and you zoom in and zoom out. And you'll notice it's Command plus. They always give you your cheater keys, Command plus, Command minus. So let's see. Oh, let's get rid of this. Command plus. See, there it goes. Command minus. And I can do it with my trackpad. Do you have a laptop? You know how, do you have an iPhone? You know how you zoom it in and out? Same thing on my trackpad. Pinch to zoom, they call it. You do it right on the trackpad. This trackpad reacts. Here's where you find how to do your trackpad and mouses. Go up to the Apple logo, come down to System Preferences. I have a mouse attached, but I have a trackpad. And when I click on trackpad, it shows me a movie of what everything does as I hover over each thing. See the little movie? All right. I've got to start to tear down, but I'm happy to answer questions as I do. Go ahead.
We live in a rural area, and no matter what
Thank you.
we try, our services are level. We have a suggestion, like we have Verizon, and it's.
Are you using the like hotspot Verizon, so you're pretty limited on what you can get too, huh?
I don't know.
Where are you?
Cool.
And have you talked to other people around to see if there's any alternate internet providers there?
Well, it's trying Comcast or Verizon.
There is Comcast?
Yeah, but it's microwave. It's off the microwave.
Comcast is off microwave.
Yeah, when it snows, rains, we would lose everything.
Yeah, well that's interesting because I hadn't heard of
Unless they've
them.
upgraded since then, but when we first moved there, we had Comcast. We went to AT&T, now we have Verizon. And And it's like our signal just goes in and out, in and out, in and out, constant.
You know, there is talk. There's satellite internet, not satellite. Excuse me. There's not the same